In the process of evolution for millions of years, human being has tried to domesticate, select, and create useful crops to sustain and develop life. A new era of biology has opened up since 1973 when Herbert Boyer and Stanley Cohen, the first to create genetically modified organisms, GMOs, by transferring antibiotic-resistant genes to plasmids of E. coli bacteria. When applied to plants, genetically modified technology has become more successful than ever because it breaks the natural gaps to create plants that have many superior characteristics and has not found in the nature before. But the process itself raises the question, is it breakthrough good or bad? Is it a miraculous achievement to save the world from disease and hunger, or just a useful technology? At the same time, can it cause great harm to the people and the nature? Our program, Sharing Vietnam Today, will address the benefits and ways of growing the GM crops. Greetings from Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Net Việt. In our program today, we are going to talk about the GMO. What are the threats and also the opportunities for developing the GMO plants in Vietnam? And the guest speaker in our program today is Madam Kartini Salmon from Grain from Indonesia. So thank you for joining us. In the natural world, the genetic system is being modified at a very slow speed, but to make it faster, the human being has interrupted it. So what can you say about this interruption?
For generations, farmers have done and have techniques of improving the quality. They breed and they crossbreed, but it's in the same species. For example, you have corn that has a better quality, like they have more yields. And there are corn that has a shorter period of growing. So farmers know and they breed these two types. What happened with GMOs is you play the genetic type of this corn, and you have to do it in the laboratory. It's something that you cannot do in the nature, and you inserted different genes from other species. And this is something that humans are we're playing with natures. You see cloning in the animals, but you also see in the crops how this has been introduced in the past 20 years. But actually, originally is not for human consumptions. Some of the earliest GMOs are for industry use, for example, BT cotton, and then for livestock feed. So it's not aimed for human consumptions, but in later year it becoming more and more for human consumption.
One question is being raised in Vietnam nowadays is whether the GMO products are safe for the health of the human beings or not. What is your opinion about that?
Well, I would say you need to see in the long run. One, you see the impact in the animal testing. It shows various disease. So right now you cannot say safe or unsafe from direct consumptions of GMOs. But for example, there are other the promoters that use. For example, it will help to end world hunger. And amongst that, very few are allowing for food consumptions, actually. So countries themselves are very careful on allowing GMOs. Another thing is, for example, the World Health Organizations already stated that the herbicide that used for growing GMOs, the glyphosate, it's actually, they already confirmed that it causes cancer. So you cannot see it directly because it's in the long run. So it's something that causes a chronic disease.
In your opinion, what is the benefit from developing the GMO products, especially for the farmers?
So far, we've been working with farmers and civil society in different parts of the world in the past almost 25 years, and you see very little benefit, actually almost no benefit. For example, it increased the cost of productions in the long run. you don't actually reduce the external costs that farmers use to buy fertilizers and herbicides, but actually increase. For example, in the country of Argentina, the use of glyphosate increased to 550 million liters per year during the period of they're using GM soybean. Increasing farmers' indebtedness and suicide happens in India. Like every half an hour, farmers are committed suicide. And that's a national-wide problem and concern, because farmers' indebtedness to buying supply, for buying GM seeds, for buying fertilizers and herbicides are increased. Also, countries actually like European Unions and Japan are very restrict, and they are forbid of importations of crops that contains GMOs. And so the case of Thailand, for example, their export of papaya was declined after several years, because there's been a ban of papaya export from Thailand to countries like European Unions and Japan because of GM contaminations. So there's other health effect, allergy, skin allergy in communities that grows GMOs. So I would say in the long run, the benefit, it's almost non-existent.
In fact, over the past 20 years, more than 10 genetically modified crops have been approved and commercialized worldwide. The main varieties are maize, soybean, cotton, papaya, eggplant, and most recently, potatoes. By 2016, GM crops have been cultivated, imported, and researched in 70 countries around the world. Vietnam has now become the 29th country in the world to allow the cultivation of genetically modified maize varieties that are resistant to worms. Vision to 2020, the area of genetically modified plants in Vietnam will account for 30 to 50% of the total area of maize, cotton, and soybeans that are newly planted.
Hiện nay ở Việt Nam thì về Đảng và Nhà nước của chúng ta đã có nhiều cái chủ trương, chính sách để định hướng cái việc mà thử nghiệm trồng và sử dụng cái sản phẩm biến đổi gen như thế nào. Cái thứ nhất là chúng ta chưa cho phép là sử dụng sản xuất thương mại về các cái giống cây trồng vật nuôi biến đổi gen. Cái thứ hai là chúng ta quy định là phải khảo kiểm nghiệm hết sức chặt chẽ đối với cái sản phẩm cây trồng vật nuôi mà có sử dụng cây biến đổi gen. Cái thứ ba là quy định về dán nhãn mác cái sản phẩm biến đổi gen như thế nào để mà mọi người dân được biết, được hiểu về cái sản phẩm biến đổi gen, để mà họ có quyền lựa chọn hay không lựa chọn cái sản phẩm biến đổi gen.
In addition to the immediate benefits of genetically modified crops, scientists say the crop also has the potential and lasting impact on the public health and the environment. There is no official evidence yet, but the risk to human health when using genetically modified products and their consequences for the nature and biodiversity are alarming.
Đó là nó sẽ làm giảm hoặc là thậm chí làm mất các cái giống cây bản địa, và những cái giống cây bản địa truyền thống của người nông dân trước đây. Ví dụ như ngô. Đấy, thì ngô khi mà đưa cái cây ngô biến đổi gen và cây ngô lai tạo vào trồng thì người nông dân không trồng những cây ngô của cái giống bản địa trước đây nữa, và dần dần nó làm mai một cái giống đó đây. Đấy, thứ hai là cũng có ý kiến cho là cái sản phẩm cái cây trồng biến đổi gen nó ảnh hưởng đến môi trường thông qua việc sử dụng các cái loại hóa chất, thuốc diệt cỏ hoặc là thuốc trừ sâu, nó ảnh hưởng đến môi trường. Đấy, thứ ba là có ý kiến cho là cái sử dụng cái sản phẩm biến đổi gen nó ảnh hưởng đến sức khỏe con người.
Many experts say that if we choose to grow genetically modified crops, we will have to trade off a great deal with the ecological environment. Therefore, only when the assessment of risk, especially on human health, the GM crops should be applied and only developed in the area under control and management with biological safety. Many argue that the development of the GMO plants have some the potential risks. So what can I say about the potential risks from the development of the GMO plants?
One, I'll start with the environment. For example, the use of GMOs deplete soil nutrition. So farmers need more and more fertilizers for soil fertility. And also it contaminates the river from the use of glyphosates and other herbicides. And so it really destroyed the environment in terms of contaminations from chemical use of growing GMOs. We need to look at this very careful and to handle this very careful as well. And that's why farmers and scientists that needs to sit together and see what's the benefit of this. Is this really for the use of the humans and the farmers, or is it for the profit of the corporations actually?
In the country, in Indonesia, how is the GMO plants being treated?
Well, at the moment, Indonesia is not allowed for any commercial planting of GMOs, especially since 2001, when there's a big case of farmers who were growing BT cotton, reporting a big loss from their productions because they said that the productivity is higher, but what happened is not as promised. So they have a lot of economic loss. And during that process, there's a lot of coverage as well from the media, the work with civil society, and the government decide not to allow that GMO planting commercially in Indonesia since 2001. Even though in one hand we haven't banned importations of GMOs to the country, so right now, all still in the laboratory level, or it is imported through processed food from other country. But it's not allowed to be grown domestically in Indonesia. So government as well are very careful, particularly because they're afraid of contaminations. Because what happens when you grow GMO, you cannot refer it back. You know, it can contaminate the non-GMO crops that grows around the GM area.
This time coming to Vietnam, what are the best practices that you want to share with Vietnamese farmers and also researchers?
Well, this time I think there's a couple of things. One, Vietnam needs to be very strict and very careful on handling the regulations of opening up large-scale field testing and large-scale commercializations of GM corn, particularly in the highlands, where the growing of GMO in the highlands, like in Son La province, can contaminate the soil, and the water can go to the lowland and contaminate the lower area. And the second is actually Vietnam need to be very careful on regulating GMOs in terms of you need to have a very strict regulations before you allow a commercialization planting. And this is something that hasn't been done. In the debate we have today, even people from the ministry are saying that this is not yet approved in a large scale, but there's already province that grows GMO openly. So I think the case of glyphosate poisonous to the farmers in Vietnam shows a clear evidence that you need to handle this issue very careful as well.
So once again, thank you for joining us and for your sharing today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for this episode of Trồng Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, don't hesitate to write to us at trongvietnam@netvietv.net. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.